Morning, everyone. Y'all gonna make me take the jacket off already? I just got here. Good morning, everyone. You know, it's a blessing to be here with everyone. I see some faces that I know and a whole bunch of new folks. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you're doing. And thank you for trying the best that you can to help make change actually happen. So they told me that I have 8 minutes. And I was raised in a family of Baptist and Pentecostal ministers. So you know that it takes us a good 20 minutes just to say good morning, let folks know what's going to happen for the day. And in the thousands of speeches that I've given, I always give honor to my mother and my grandmother, who are the rocks that I stand on. How many folks in the room like your mother or your grandmother? Raise your hand. Everybody look around. Find the people who don't like their mother or their grandmother. Just touch them, because, you know, they need some specialness. And my mom told me when I was really young, she said, you're going to have some tough days. How many folks in the room have ever had a tough day? Raise your hand if you ever had a tough day. Look around. Find that person never had a tough day, too. We got to figure out what they got going on. But my mom and my grandmother told me that when you're working on the issues, and I started working on social justice issues when I was 16, that you're going to have some tough days. And you're going to have to find a way to surround yourself with positive energy to be able to address some of the challenges that are going on. So every day since I've been 16 years old, except for twice, and maybe if I have enough time, I'll share with you the 2 times I didn't do this, I get up and I look in the mirror, no matter where I am across the planet, and I say, I'm blessed and highly favored. Now, I know I'm in a room with a bunch of PhDs and MDs and some other Ds, but we're going to try it. I'm blessed and highly favored. That was just pathetic. Oh, my goodness. We're going to go inside this room. Maybe there's some folks who actually believe it. I'm blessed and highly favored. All right, we got some mumblers still, but we're going to try one last time. I'm blessed and highly favored. And you see, you are, because we have the opportunity actually to help make real change happen. We have the ability to actually help save lives. That is a gift. That is an opportunity that sometimes we are so busy with the priorities and the various things that are going on in our lives that we forget about that gift that's given to us and how serious that is and why we need to really stay focused on helping to make real change happen. Do me a favor, because I ran track in college. I guess I could jump off this stage well, maybe not. We'll leave that alone. And since I ran track, everything in my head moves in seconds. No matter what I'm doing, I'm always thinking about time. And how many folks in the room, by a show of hands, in the last 60 seconds have taken a breath of air? Raise your hand if you've taken a breath of air. Everybody look around, find the non-air breathers. You know, we take that for granted. It's an autonomic response. It's something that we all do. When we breathe in, we expect something good and positive to come into our bodies to keep us moving forward. But unfortunately, we have far too many communities across our country who can't take a breath of fresh air. Everybody do me a favor, take a breath in. Just hold it for a second and just let it out. You know, I was backstage and I was listening to some of the statistics that folks were sharing, and it's really interesting. How many folks in the room knew that over 100,000 people in our country die prematurely from air pollution every year? So we've got about 4 or 5 folks out of all the esteemed colleagues who are here in the room. You know, that's more people who are dying from air pollution than who are dying from gun violence. And gun violence is an extremely important issue for us to focus on. But imagine if people really understood how many people's lives are being shortened because of what they are breathing. Like Curtis Bay, right down the street, where folks there can't breathe. How many folks in the room have been to Houston? Raise your hand if you've been to Houston. Okay, watch this. Keep your hands up high if you've been to Houston. How many folks have been to the Ship Channel? Wow, look at all the hands that went down. How many folks have been to the Manchester community? So 1 person, 2 people have been there. So when you go to the Manchester community, an incredible community there, hardworking Latinx community. And when you go there, there's some interesting dynamics that go on. How many folks in the room got an old car? Who has an old car? Okay, watch this. How many folks have a classic car? Right? There's a big difference. So whoever has that car, we're riding. We're coming up to the Manchester community, and you're rolling your windows down. Remember, you got a classic car. And the first thing you feel like you're breathing in is gasoline fumes. And that is the dynamic that folks are dealing with there. The 48217 in Southwest Detroit, Children, when they look out their windows, instead of seeing trees, they're seeing piping. Go back to the Manchester community. When people are standing in their backyards, and there's somebody who's here who's been there before, there are houses where people can literally reach out and touch the piping that exists inside of facilities that are there. We got 25 million people in our country who have asthma, 7 million kids, and disproportionately, it is African American and Latinx children who are the ones who are going to the emergency rooms, the ones who are losing their lives, but yet we have an administration, we're not going to get political, who continues to roll back all the basic air protections that these communities need. They just get the basics. That's what they've been looking for. So when you roll back the Clean Power Plan, or you remove yourself from the Paris Climate Accord, or the methane rule, or the Clean Car Rule, which actually impacts communities of color even more because our transportation routes have been used disproportionately to move wealth into certain communities, extract wealth from other communities, and leave pollution in other communities. That's the reason that those policies are so important and they need to be strengthened. By a show of hands, how many folks in the room in the last 24 hours have taken a drink of water? Raise your hand if you've taken a drink of water. Find the camels, find them. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have added this, or a libation. We are at a conference or a summit, right? It's amazing. It's amazing. We've got, over 60 million people over the last decade who have had to deal with unhealthy water. When we talk about Flint, Michigan, which has become a flashpoint for folks, and I appreciated the conversation before I came on stage, raising the impacts of lead, and many of you understand what's going on. But I don't know how many of you actually really are anchored in the dynamics that are happening in our most vulnerable communities, and how difficult it is when you have an education system that hasn't invested properly, when you have a medical system that in many instances has now beginning to evolve around environmental medicine, when you have a system where we have unhealthy housing. All of these things play into the mix, and all of you know we've got 1.1 million children who have been lead poisoned over the years. You understand the dynamics that go on as people begin to move forward, and if we don't have the innovation and we don't have those programs that are in place to help folks who have been impacted from lead. But we've got coal ash. We've got CAFOs. Everybody in the room know what a CAFO is? Certified Animal Feeding Operation. For those of you, I come from Appalachia, so we just call them hog farms. Right? Chicken farms, turkey farms. I was blessed that Senator Booker and we did a tour of the Black Belt. And we went down, and Senator Booker is from New Jersey. He's from Newark. Okay, let's not get carried away. And when we went down there, it was an interesting dynamic in the sense that we were standing there and they were doing these spray fields. Anybody ever seen a spray field? Where they literally take the waste and it sprays and it wafts and it goes into churches and it goes on people's back porches and people can't put their clothes out. That's just one, along with PFOA and PFOS, all these other things, and I'm almost out of time, but I'll leave you with this, that we have power. How many folks in the room believe you have power? Okay, so about half the room thinks they got power. Help your neighbors out. Because the dynamic is that if you don't truly believe that you have power, that you can make change happen, then nothing will ever change. And we've had great examples, and I'll share them in the last couple of seconds here. How many folks in the room remember the Women's March? Raise your hand. So a whole bunch of men still didn't raise their hand. And that was the dynamic that was going on. A bunch of men said 1 million women will never march, will never come together. And sisters said, oh yeah, I got something for you. And not only did they march, but they took that power back home. And they began to look around. They said, if I can't find somebody who will run for office, I'll do it myself. And now when you go to state houses and on the federal level and you walk those halls, you see incredible, incredible sisters who are there who are making real change happen. That's power. How many folks remember the Science March? I know we have scientists in the room. Right. A whole bunch of folks thought scientists would never come out of their labs. They said, Mustafa, is it okay? I said, yes. Can I share a secret with y'all real quickly? They didn't have a whole lot of rhythm. They just didn't. We said left, right, left, right. But when this, y'all caught that, didn't you? But what happened was that when this administration decided it was going to pull back from science and say that science wasn't real, you had incredible organizations like the Union of Concerned Scientists, the Thriving Earth Exchange, all these incredible academic institutions filling that space. That's power. And you've seen power play out with Black Lives Matter, with the Muslim ban, and folks coming to the airports to help to make sure that what our country is supposed to be about, it actually is about. And then you've seen all these incredible young leaders across the country who are moving forward on climate change and pulling us in the right direction. But you have to believe you have power. Look to the person to your left. Okay, I know there's a whole lot of smart people in this room. Look to the people to your right. Put your left hand out on the left-hand side. Let's see how this works out. Put your right hand out on the right-hand side and take those people's hands. And please stand if you have the ability. Help your neighbor, help your neighbor. This is supposed to be family time. Family time. Okay. I just want to share this with you all real quickly, and I share this around the country. Sometimes we put barriers between ourselves. We don't even have to have those who are trying to do those types of things. How many times have you been walking down the street and you might have your cell phone in your pocket or your purse and it's not even charged, and you see somebody you don't want to talk to and you'll act like you're talking on the phone, right? We separate ourselves. Or we get on the elevator. I saw this happen. You get on the elevator, you stare at those numbers, and you're like, Lord, please don't let anybody say anything to me. We separate ourselves. Other outside forces don't even have to do it. We have to make the change so that we can actually address these impacts that are happening. Dr. Martin Luther King once said that we come to these shores in different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. As we work on these public health issues, as we work on these environmental issues, as we work on these climate change and climate crisis issues, we're all in the same boat together, but we can make change happen if we realize that we have power. Everybody say power. Power. Let's try it again. Everybody say power. Power. All right, do me a favor. Drop your hands. Put your right hand in the air like it's 1968 at the Olympics. And everybody say power to the people. Power to the people. Say power to the people. Power to the people. One last time, let it get good to you. We'll let the White House hear it. Yeah, I just got a little bit political. Everybody say power to the people. Power to the people. I'm Mustafa Santiago Ali. Thank y'all for a couple of minutes of your time.